Good morning and happy Thursday. I got the day of the week right this time. We're here with our Nature Mystic Thursday, and today we'll be talking about the seven levels. And this is all part of the Paco Cuna tradition of Peru, as taught by our teacher, Don Zane Curfman, the author of Inka Mountain. A little taste of what the tradition can do for you, because we are all about bringing that tradition to you and seeing if it's right. And if so, then we'd love to guide you down the way to learn more about it.
Yeah. Like, did we want to hop right into the first level while we wait for some of our regular viewers to come in?
Or what random things could we talk about while we wait for people to tune in? Well,
I mean,
why don't you say something that what does this tradition do for you that none of the other things you study do for you, just to kind of give an overview?
This has been a tradition that I've been able to pretty much use in everyday life. Unlike some other ones, which they've all have served their purpose. But this one, even just being able to, be out in public and help either like family member that you may be in who might be experiencing anxiety because a crowd of people, or sitting at the doctor's and maybe anticipating some not fun results, being able to help in everyday life with that. So that's why this tradition seems to have really, really helped, and become something I can use in an everyday way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my thing is similar. I use it every single day, and I find that everything else I do can get pulled in and put into the tradition without conflict. And I can't say the same is true. Like if I were to practice access consciousness, I can't necessarily take everything and put it under there. It doesn't work. So that for me is like a sign of like a universal or like a core truth of something that really just has everything. And the other part of it is it's an relatively unbroken tradition. Until the Spanish came, it hadn't been bothered. And fortunately, in this tradition, the Caro that kind of ran from that, they hid way up in the mountains. And that tradition was relatively preserved till just a couple hundred, even within just the last 100 years, when they rediscovered them and started going up to the mountains to start learning. And now it's being spread across the world. And it's really the time of Pachacuti, the world turned upside down, and rainbow tribe of man coming back together again to share their knowledge. And this tradition has all of that. So that's why I love it.
Yeah. I've trained in probably 4 or 5 different healing and spiritual techniques. And while I do call upon all of them at times, depending on what's needed, the one that I use most often, and maybe as the basis and maybe pull a little bit from other traditions, is always this one. Because it is so open and flexible to use around. Right, Amy? I know. Marianne has a lot going on. So, I don't know if we're going to get back to Wednesday mornings. So in the meantime, for some morning entertainment, but on Thursdays, we're doing some like shaman talk, questions about how the healing works, energy healing. We are welcome to go off on tangents if needed. So that's kind of what these Thursday mornings are. Hey, Brooke, and Cosmic. Hello, everybody coming in. Sandy, I see you peeking while you're working, not working. If you get to work from home. Ted is doing okay. He's doing okay. No worse than what he has been. But Hank, you yourself, you have trained in a lot of different things. And, is this the one that you kind of use as your baseline as well to work from and with and kind of flex in and out with other things?
I would say mostly. There's one other tradition that I won't go into fully that I would consider actually my main tradition, and this is like like almost overlapping, but it's but prior to that, like this was the umbrella that held it all for me.
We won't tell.
Well, I think I could say, but I'd rather not say because I don't know about all that. So, but I have another tradition that I practice that really complements the Paco Cuna tradition, and that's my main altar work practice. But like daily, I use both in my day-to-day life, and they blend together well.
Well, and that's kind of a good thing to maybe point out. While we're not going to put out there which other practices, the other one, as you said, your altar practice in this tradition, like you're not really required to have an altar set up that you have to work, which is one reason why I like it all the time. Because as busy as I am, I don't want to be beholden to, like, on Mondays you have to do this, Thursdays you have to do that, Friday mornings is this, but Saturday evenings is this. It's on your time when you need, if you even have it set up. And as I'm saying that, I'm looking at mine that I do keep up for me because I like the feeling of it, and
Mhm.
it feels like it's always working and it gets to breathe when it's set up. But I'm like, huh, part of it I still have packed away from where I had to kind of leave work, come home, grab part of it to take it back to work to do some kind of like emergency work for somebody. And me, just as I am at the end of my workday, brought that, case back in, kind of put it back in the corner and kind of forgot to take out those pieces and put them back. So guess what I'm doing when this
Yeah.
is over?
Yeah. But this tradition, the Paco tradition, does have, like, if you have a bundled Misha like that, even if you don't have your Misha with you, like every day you're connecting to the water, you're connecting to the earth, you're connecting to the sun. There's like practices that you learn that, though you don't have to do them every day, you kind of get in that rhythm, and your day wouldn't quite be right if you didn't do it. And it just, but it's not required. It's really there when you need it, and you get out of it what you put into it. So it's just, cause and effect. If you put a lot into the tradition, you'll get a lot out, but it's not required. Where my other tradition is very regimented, and you do certain things at certain times, and there's a beauty and a power to that too. And the two together is really awesome.
Hmm. So, that being said, getting into the discussion for the topic of this week, and it's going to sound kind of similar to last week where we were talking about the Yanapak. We're going into deeper conversation of those 7 levels that we kind of were in and out of and talking about. Just to give a little more clarification of what we meant when we were talking about those. And again, we're welcome to tangents. We can even go through this real quick if you guys
Yeah,
want
you
and
go
get
through it quick and go on your questions, like whatever you actually want to hear about.
yeah. Do you want to start this time, Hank? I feel like the last few ones, I'm always the one diving in
No,
and in.
well, the first, let's categorize it. So the first 3 levels, and this is like just like the Anapac, the first 3 were animals, right? And the animals might be instinctually based. And the first 3 levels of this progression, the 7 paths, or however you want to call it, is all fear based. And it starts like with level 1 is there's like one group or God, and if I'm out of line, I'm gonna die. And like it's like, so your whole world is like based on, I need to be right with the group or I'm not going to get my needs met. As a child, I need to be good with my parents, because if my parents don't like me, they're not going to feed me, they're not going to carry me around, they're not going to change my diaper, and I'm going to die. And so it's like a really fear-based level. And then stepping into level 2, it's like there are many gods, and I'm going to jump around, I'm going to serve this god on this day, and like there's and like this one's working for me now, I'm going to jump to this one, they're all different. And if I don't do it just right, then I might be punished. And the like level 3 is there is one God, but we don't agree on which one. And if
Mhm.
you don't worship the one God the right way, you're gonna die and go to hell forever. And then when you start bridging into the 4th level, that's where it's like there is the one source, and all these things are that. And it starts to go into love. And those are the 4 that we're seeing on the planet right now. And then as part of our second part of our conversation, levels 5 through 7, or sorry, yeah, 5, 6, and 7, they haven't been seen on planet Earth in a long time. So we're really dealing with levels 1 through 3, kind of one thing, 4 is a transition, and then bridging into 5, 7, and 6. Or yeah, 7 and 6. I went backward. I didn't count correctly, but you get what I'm saying.
Right. So, I think we're all pretty familiar, right, with 1 through 3. 1 through 3. There we go. Words are hard. More coffee. Um, we all remember kind of like that childhood feeling, the trauma, things that kind of come along, and it's that 4 that hey, Frockus, um, that we're all kind of those of us who are becoming self-aware, that we're trying to get into, that we're trying to let go of, like those trappings, right, of 1 through 3 to kind of step up into the next. And there are some should have thought of this before we went live in the mid half. Here we are.
I'm glad your bookshelf is organized.
It is not. It is
Has the
not.
illusion of being organized. They're all
I was going to say at least that one over there is mostly fiction, but I'm like, nope, I see nonfiction on that one too. This is the order of which box was being unpacked into which shelf is all this is. So in other books, like this is a two-parter right here. He talks about how Earth itself and the level of consciousness and even the shape, like the shape of the consciousness is like a square, and to get to Christ consciousness, which is ultimately up on 7, it's like, how do we change that shape? What does humanity need to go through and do and kind of flex and turn? And I think he equated it down to like becoming like this diamond and literally shifting. So like right now we are trying to get everybody at a 4 and kind of like a square, and then ultimately shift it to a 7. If you like kind of going through some stuff and learning, these will make you think. I can't necessarily say I agree with everything, but that's just life, right?
Yeah.
And I will warn you that this one here, there's a lot of math. So if you're like me and you're a visual person, some of this is just words on pages, but these are The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Melchizedek 1 and 2. But he gives a really good, almost like visual description of these levels that we're talking about. So right now he was equating like humanity on Earth, right? We are kind of at the 4. More people are waking up to this. We're all kind of going, we should take care of the planet. And does it really matter what religion everybody is? Just don't be a dick to one another and do good. Some people kind of use this as your God is the same as this God is the same as my God, but they all just have different names. So we're at a 4, and we want to slowly start kind of shifting over. And some of the notes that I have resonates with the bubble of the entire Earth.
Right, because we're all starting to harmonize. And it's interesting, the parallels between this and other esoteric things, like the books you just mentioned, like in Alice Bailey's work where it talks about the 7 rays and like the planes of reality, like Earth is harmony through conflict. We're harmonizing through our apparent conflict and differences. Like the Yanantan concept in the tradition, it's like complementary dualism and recognizing the beauty and the difference and harmonizing that. And then there's also like the planes where you have physical, emotional, lower mental, higher mental, and then the plane of at-one-ment. And that's where we're bridging from level 3 into level 4 and really starting to come together as a species, recognizing, hey, it's not me, it's we. Though we're separate, we're one. And if we really get that cause and effect of what we're doing to one another, like is impacting us directly because you get what you put out, that's like where humanity is going to really start to show up as what it has the potential to become.
Some of the other notes we have, when God is everything, it's the mystic level, and the global spirit, right? Becoming aware of the overreaching, everybody kind of maybe, Hank, the whole I am you, you are me, kind of like reality type, before we get into level 5, which is like the solar system, and the whole solar. So we kind of get off of Earth, Gaia, this being, and we kind of start embracing the bigger unit, right? That we're a part of.
Right.
This
it's like once we get our act together, we can actually join the cosmos. Oh, sorry,
right. I was going to say this whole thing. I remember sitting in class going, "Oh, this is almost like Horton Hears a Who." Right? Because the little bitty guy, his universe was only this big to him. But then once he realizes that he's a small little speck on the flower that's being carried by a bigger being, like expanding out. Right? If everybody only believed that. And I hope
it's happening.
I was like, do you think it's happening more now than maybe 50, 60 years ago?
I think that is why it is so crazy on this planet right now, because we are so close to that. And so like the ego and the fear of stepping into that new possibility, it is giving a last-ditch effort to cling on for dear life, because the ego only knows past experience. It can't see future possibility. It just wants you, it would rather you pick the same misery every day because it knows you survived it than to choose something new. So as people step into awakening and actually looking to step into that future possibility, everything that is trying to convince you don't do that because you might die comes up, and you see a lot of chaos and a lot of like old power structures like trying to hang on and things. But I believe it's all a sign of, as we have all these crazy potent experiences, it's really a sign that humanity really is about to step in through this threshold to evolve. And then we're ready to join the cosmic community. And I wonder if we'll actually have first contact and all kinds of fun stuff like that.
Right. So Miss Brooke,
Yeah.
if you were with us for Woo Woo Wednesday last night, it is the
Yeah.
Brooke. Somebody's like, is that the Brooke that was in the WC letters? It is. It is that Brooke. People can feel the change, and people
Yep.
fear the change.
Yep. And fear, I love two acronyms for that, is like false evidence appearing real. And then, but my more favorite one is like, where are we misidentifying fear with excitement and feeling excited and ready? Like really that anticipation. What if we could change what we're perceiving as fear into excitement to take that leap into the new possibility? And that's going to create the womb. As we more of us hit that fourth level, it creates the womb, Zane says, for the fifth level to emerge. And so, like, and it doesn't matter who the fifth level is. Zane says, if you find it, come and find me. I'm happy. Like, it's the goal isn't for me or Melissa's to say we want to be the fifth level or whatever. It's like it's really about just doing the best that you can and creating that womb. So it's going to happen somewhere, and just that one happening is going to shift everything on the planet.
Sorry, yelling at the black kitty who thought it was appropriate to
Oh,
walk across the mesa. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. It is me. I am Brooke. Yes, yes, it is Brooke.
yep. It's nice to have an actual face to go with the name. Now that I
Right?
know who Brooke is.
Yeah, Brooke helps us do readings on Woo Woo Wednesday evenings over, on Twitch and stuff. Hey, Nikki. Thank you, everybody who is kind of listening and lurking while you're at work. I know we have to be quiet. We won't rat you out. Just in case your boss is lurking, maybe in another room. So, we kind of go from that fifth level, which is our solar system, then we go into the whole galaxy. So it's like you just keep expanding out, that consciousness grows bigger and just keeps going. The one thing I never quite really could put my finger on, and Hank, and maybe you have an idea of that, is, and this is if you've kind of studied some of this. So there is a few people out there. There's an author who actually has books out on Venus about the inhabitants of certain planets and how they're in different dimensions, and that we can't perceive them because we're not at that level yet. Are they on 5? Are they on 6? And, hopefully, is it 5 that we could start perceiving them, or is it 6 that we would start perceiving them? Which is why, like, our satellites, when we're looking at these planets, all we see is the dust. I forget which planet where it rains diamonds, but we don't see the beings living on because we're on a different level than they are.
Right. Well, it's kind of like in this, with the levels that we're talking about, once you have mastery over one, you can clearly see down and see the whole of all the levels below you. So if you're on level 4, you go look down, you see level 1, 2, and 3, and all the beauty, all the complexity, all the stuff that goes on. You look up, and all you see is the 4th level reflected back, and you don't see the 5th level. But the 5th level could come down, but you only see a sliver. And I saw a really good example of this. Somebody on a table made like little structures, and they called it flatland, right? And everything there is flat. It's only 2-dimensional. All the squares and everything, they have no idea of a 3-dimensional universe. And he used an apple to represent like first contact of a 3rd-dimensional being. And he put it down, and he put it as a stamp. He put the apple in, and all you see is a slice of it. And you don't get a full picture. You get something very distorted because you have no idea what this is. You see this 4 little things at the bottom of the apple, like, whoa, what's this? And so, like, but as that apple goes through this reality, you see different parts of it, but you never see the full picture. So it's possible to see glimpses, but you would need to expand your bubble, if you will. You would need to expand your ability to perceive to have a different point of view in order to see that in more of a whole context, which is totally possible. You could have a 2-dimensional being with a 3-dimensional perspective, and it could change everything. And those are maybe the mediums of flatland and the psychics of flatland. They're seeing like other dimensionality, but you're never getting the full picture as it actually is, as represented in that dimension. Is that a good answer?
Sure. What level do you think they're at?
Oh, is that the question? Well, I mean, a level above us. Like, who's to say that you couldn't have a fifth, a seventh, a
Mhm.
multi-dimensional being? Like, you might have different beings of different dimensions all interplaying. So I
Right.
don't. I would think it's mainly the one above that where we're at, but I would not. I would not exclude the possibility that it could be greater than that.
Greater. Yeah. I remember thinking, and I didn't think to ask Zane because I was so lost in that thought while listening to him. And I'm like, huh, where are the Venusians? Where are, all of these other ones? Like, what level are they on? That they are looking down, trying to like help humanity, supposedly, according to these other authors. I wonder if they're just
Yeah.
kind of sitting back eating popcorn, and like, look
No.
at these idiots and what they're
Well,
doing on this planet. It's taking
if
them
you
forever.
if you follow Bashar, he's a channel that I really respect, and I've emulated a lot of my own channeling work around how he operates. But there is a lot more. If you follow that, there's a lot more actual help being had right now, and I would say it's mainly just maybe the next dimension up. But there's a lot more interaction and help than what you might think if you follow what he's saying, and even to the point where within the next 20 years or so, if we stay on the trajectory, we'd actually have a first contact event, like where it would be like the undisputable, like here's the whole apple in our reality. Oh my gosh, look at that, and and as humanity's ready for it. But Bashar's a great. I don't know. Have you followed him at all? It's a really cool
No,
channeler.
no. I hear little things here and there. And if you're somebody that's been with the store for a while, you know that every now and then we have a person that can come and teach classes that channels light language, that talks to the star command and all of this, and how they're like, oh, we're helping humanity to shift. And I'm like, when y'all been
It's
saying
happening.
this for at least 50 years, when?
Well,
So
time
I
is
will,
quite a thing for them. Different, you know.
you know, you want some
Well,
popcorn too, right? Right.
yeah, and
Um,
specifically, Bashar is a being that is considered a liaison for first contact, talking through the actual person's name is Daryl Ankins, and he had a hand in like doing the a lot of stuff in the movie industry. Like that's his actual job, and then he does all this channeling work, which he fell into completely by accident. And so, like a lot of this stuff deals with first contact, but a lot of the stuff is just like the tools that we need to get there, the tools that we need in order to have the shift where that first contact event is possible, and different things like that. So
mhm. So we kind of go from the solar into the galaxy, even bigger, right, to the whole universe. And funny enough, like when we were kind of in this area of that apprenticeship, my son and I, because once upon a time he wanted to be an astrophysicist. He still would, but math stumbles him, right, because it's his dyscalculia. um, we were listening to an astrophysicist podcast, and at one point they were talking about how galaxies turn into these huge nebulas, and you reference this term. And when you go look at this picture, because it's a big cluster of galaxies, and it looks like a CAT scan of a brain. And so, it was kind of like, what if we are just these little peons inside of a bigger being? And that is that universe, that being able to heal. Like, what if we're broken little, helper T cells, red blood cells, and we're going through this healing so we can go back to healing the greater body that we're in,
mhm.
you know? So spend some time letting my mind go off on that tangent with it. Also went into a few places that it's like, so what if you think of like cancer in the human body, right? And you have to do things like radiation that actually damage, some healthy tissue while trying to get rid of damaged and sick cells. What if you have people who are not so great, who have wiped out whole masses of people? Hitler, for instance, right? He decimated the Jewish population. What if he was a type of radiation put into place?
Mm.
Sounds comfortable, not really, but could have been, maybe. Because radiation, chemo, those that have been through it or have gotten close, not a comfortable thought. But just, that's where my mind goes on some of these. Like when you consider that, what if we are inside a much bigger thing? And okay, I'm not the only crazy one. Thanks,
Mhm.
Nikki. Right, little brains in a bigger brain. Yeah. Um, so maybe that whole universe is the being that we're in.
Yeah. Well, there's two thoughts to that because I believe the greatest truths are paradoxes. So all of creation is within you is true, and also you are just part of the whole of creation is also true. And there's like the whole thing with Alice Bailey's work that you might be interested in, because the whole thing is like you're balancing this being, and when this being becomes balanced with the monad, like the higher self energy, like that, which would include perhaps all lifetimes of this particular oversoul, that balancing then becomes the cosmic physical, and then there's like a whole new physicality, quote unquote, that you would experience as you start to evolve into the next like oversoul type thing. And there's graphs and things that she's come up with to kind of give a snapshot of what that looks like in terms of um, a visualization. I mean, it's totally a limit of what it actually is, but I 100% agree with that. Or look at Men in Black, like that whole universe was in like this little marble, and like
Mhm.
you're like a little piece in that universe on a planet in that huge universe in that galaxy, riding around in a cat's thing that is another marble that's being played with a kid. Like it just keeps going. It's infinite.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to find what that term was and see if I can't find a picture real quick to share on screen. Um, and obviously it wasn't nebula. But anyway, maybe at some point I'll just share it somewhere when I do find it. I'm sure if I go woke the boy up, he would probably already know and know the exact name and be like, here it is. Um,
We're a deva of the universe.
yeah, or we're just a dollhouse to them, right? Are we just playing around? Um, let's see. We are something's version of an ant farm.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe.
Like, why are these ants killing each other all the time? I don't get it.
Maybe like all of those tsunamis and earthquakes is when they shake the little thing that we're all sitting in.
Well, that's a great thing. I've seen it posted several times online, but like sometimes, like we're fighting with each other, like a whole world gets shaken up, and we look at each other and the ants go crazy, but you forget like there's somebody shaking the container. And like that's an example of if you're in second level energy, like you might just be in this fight or flight mentality, but if you can rise up to the third level and recognize that there were other forces at play that created the circumstances for this event, you have much greater capacity to pull yourself out of that triggering situation. So
Mhm.
like the way to use these levels is to recognize and think of it multidimensionally in a way, because you might be level 1 in certain areas of your life, level 2 in certain areas of your life, level 3 in certain areas of your life, and intermittently level 4. If you're recognizing you're having a response on level 2 and it's a lot of fear based, you don't solve it with a level 2 tool, you go to level 3 or level 4. So like the whole way to use the levels is to recognize where you're operating in your life at a level, and then what would I need to do from this level to start working to resolve these other things. So like there's practical applications to the knowledge of the seven paths and the seven steps of reality too.
Um, see, feel free to ask questions, guys. Drop in comments, ask questions. We can even go on tangents if you want, because
Yeah,
guess what? We hit level
we're on
7.
it. Yeah,
That's
yeah, we
um but I
and
think just in a way, this whole concept and talking of, like, are we really in? So actually, they're called superclusters. I finally found them. So
super
if you Google,
clusters.
now, doesn't that look like an
Mm-hmm.
electron or nerve pathway in the brain? But
Yep.
that's what a supercluster, that our little bitty planet in a galaxy, is inside of. So, you know, maybe we really are just inside
Mm-hmm.
something else. We're a little bitty peon.
Well, little bitty peon, but rest assured that creation would not be complete without you. You're here because you have a unique voice and vibration. And that's what this tradition is really all about. Katari, the Qatari tradition of cross cultural shamanism, Katari means like your unique voice in this world. You are becoming the rainbow serpent and learning to refine your energies and offer your unique voice and medicine into the world. It's about your uniqueness and recognizing that that uniqueness is creation wouldn't be complete. All of creation has capitulated since the beginning of time to create the right circumstances for me and Melissa to be here right now, and for you, whoever's listening, to be listening right now. Take no mistake that you're here for a reason, and there's value, and creation would not be complete without you. So from peon to super important, it's
Mhm.
important to recognize that we're not minimizing the existence of like the individual ant. It's important.
Right. Makes sense that we all have and operate on multiple levels at one time. Um, it's we all have different jobs, all things that we are differently naturally kind of good at, right? Anybody can really kind of learn to do art, to draw, to paint, but some of us just do it without even thinking. So different
Mhm.
levels, different jobs, different abilities in those jobs. Um, and they're all needed. So um hello everybody coming in. And Brianna says, I'm learning nature mysticism right now.
Very cool.
Um, it's funny because I think most people, like we all have innate, like we all have like empathy. So when people are like, I'm an empath, I'm like, you and everybody else in this room.
Hmm.
You just might be a little more aware of it than other people are.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a this, I'm a that, you and everybody else in this room. Not to say that it's not important that you know and understand and can work with it and pride in it, but at the same time, everybody else as well, and they're doing different aspects of different parts of jobs and things. So
Mhm.
and I say that just to make sure, like even myself included, to keep a little bit of that ego in check. And part of this tradition is understanding you are not the healer for every single person until you can get to 6 and 7, the miraculous healing, when you can resurrect yourself and other people back. And even then, at that point, you wouldn't even have that ego. You wouldn't care that you could do it. You would just do it.
You would just be being.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, here we go. Hey, Divine. I heard something recently that the Earth has decided to move into a new level. We can move with it or hold on to the past based on our free will, but this change is going to happen. Um, like the Earth, the planet itself, or do you mean the mass human decision?
It's kind of both.
And what's funny enough, again, back to these purple books, and I probably need to sit down and we go through these. He talks about how humanity does this loop, right? Where it's like, why is it so far back when humanity seemed to be so much more elevated than at other times? And there's like this forgetting phase where we forget part of what we've learned and we have to relearn and learn it better and continue on and to keep kind of like growing in this. Um, the planet itself, and I could see that.
Yep.
Everything
It's
has a
true.
consequence, right?
And
Including the
if
planet we're on.
And if you look at the Schumann resonance, like for people who don't know, there's like this frequency between the Earth and the ionosphere. And it's really our pulse and connection to the planet, because they figured out that astronauts got sick in space because the Schumann resonance isn't there. And so they run this like 8 cycle per second ish frequency. It fluctuates. But as we have been evolving, the Schumann resonance has been off the hook so high that it's actually been audible in certain areas, and people think they're getting tinnitus and different things like that. So I take that ionosphere frequency, that Schumann resonance, as like kind of an indicator of the pace and evolution of the planet shift and humanity with it, because we're with our mom, like we're kind of going along with her for the ride. And then if you and humanity's doing a lot of shifts and things too. That could be a whole nother deep dive into a realm of crazy in terms of timelines and all kinds of stuff. So I'll leave it at that. But with that,
Well,
the Schumann resonance is a great indicator.
this could be kind of like how many of us parents, like I will leave without you.
Yeah.
For the planet. Like, I have had enough of your shit. I'm getting ready to leave. Are your shoes on? Do you have your coat? And did you grab your lunch? No. Well, guess what? You're going anyway, and you might be hungry, or your trip might be a little bit harder because told you we
The
were
trip being
leaving.
harder. Yeah, you have a choice as this comes in. If you want to be riding the precipice of a wave like a surfer on a surfboard, like bravely like riding that precipice, or if you're going to be after that wave and you're going to be struggling to get back up on the precipice, like it's going to happen. The wave will occur, and it's just a matter of what position and perspective are you going to be at as everything starts moving so much more quickly.
Right. I'm going to put the link in the chat. We do carry those books in the store if you have a hard time finding them. So if you just go to goddesselite.com and put in the title, The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, you'll pull them in. There's 2 volumes. So keep that in mind. Again, I didn't agree with everything in there, but a lot of it was very thought-provoking, explained a lot of stuff that I didn't even really realize. But very interesting reads. He explains, and I think, did we already talk about in our conversation at some point on Thursdays here, where it's like that thought is that pinpoint of creation, and then it expands, and that overlapping, which creates the flower of life, is the universe creating.
Mathematically, you would look at like all reality as being the asymmetrical thought that made oneness separate. And so there's actually the Euler formula that shows that how like different thought patterns change, and it's like the breakdown of reality from a mathematical perspective. So, but like thoughts is like what you need to do as a balancing act in order to like elevate. It's like the tunnel.
Right.
It's a lot of the work between the body and the being, that you're doing this mental work, even though you want to get to the point where that mental part falls away and you're more heart centered. But like to do that, there's like a lot of mental gymnastics that occurs.
Yeah. And he does say in here that there's just some stuff that he'll touch on it, but he's like, I can't explain, because the human mind cannot process, comprehend past a certain point.
Right.
So
that's like with quantum physics. It's like all these fake negative numbers, but they're really something in other realities, and it's how reality works. But it's beyond, your brain was designed to receive this reality. You don't need to get how it works. It's nice to have an idea, but if you get caught up, it's like in Tantra, like a big thing of it is to be fully embodied and to revoke or like get rid of your knowledge because it's stopping you. Sometimes it's a mental trap because you're so worried about.
oh, did we lose Hank? Or am I the one stuck?
Figure. I hear you.
Okay. You were gone for a little bit, so I wasn't sure if
we
it was
both
me or you.
spun. Yeah, we both spun for a second after you said, "Oh, we lost Hank."
Okay. Whew. We're back. We found him.
I'm interested to see where that cut out. If it was like something like spirits, like, "Don't talk about that, silly person."
Right. Judy asks, where can I hear that resonance? Does it come and go? Is it always audible?
No, it is not always audible. Like the Schumann resonance fluctuates. It's always fluctuated, which is why I have some skepticism over some tuning fork sets, because it's based on the Schumann resonance that jumps around all the time. But it used to be around like 7.9, 8.4. Let's call it 8 cycles per second, but it had been off the hook so much more recently where it was like above 30, and people just in certain areas were just like hearing this noise, and it turned out to be the Schumann resonance. So like it's come into the audible range, but where it is normally is below the audible range. So you don't just walk out and necessarily hear it all the time. Though I hear audible tones in my head all the time of varying frequencies, and I look at that as like dimensional beings being around or spirit guides and things like that. When you do get a tone, and people might get different perceptions based on your preferred method of receiving information. I'm very auditory in some respects, that I will get that, and then you just kind of settle into that frequency and you'll get all kinds of downloads and different things like that. And it's people get those all the time, and sometimes it's angels and different things that you really want to, maybe I'm not just hearing something ahead, maybe I should lay down and take a moment and see if there's something here for me. So if you do hear stuff, I really encourage you to pay attention to it.
And that being said, sometimes the ringing in your ears really is just tinnitus.
It is, especially if it's the same constant tone all the time. Usually, when it's a medical one, it's not so varying as it is if it's a spiritual thing.
Well, mine will vary in loudness and pitch, and will go from like ringing to almost sounding like air kind of blowing. But some
Maybe you
people like
have both.
so you're like, just
Maybe it's both.
quit talking to you, and I'm like, that doesn't work. It's tinnitus. um, that is multiple plugs put into the ears as a child, and maybe that's because I wish my parents would have known Mary Ann at that time, before the multiple sets of tubes in the ears. Were ringing out of nowhere yesterday, both of them. That never happens. Well, that little town you live in, what was going on in town? I mean, they do have visitors out there. And there are plenty of pesky little fae folk in that little town as well. Let's see. It was quiet. Well, let's see what happens today and over the weekend. I get ringing, but when I was tested, it said I don't have hearing loss. I probably should go get mine tested. I know as a child, they're like, you don't have hearing loss, but I've noticed that certain people, certain tones and resonances of voices and loudness, your mouth might be moving, I might be hearing, but I can't quite understand what you're saying. I'm like, yeah, I should probably go get that tested at some point when I have downtime.
Yeah. But to Melissa's point, that the thing is, like, everything in life may have meaning, but not necessarily everything has meaning to you. So to Melissa's point, sometimes it's just ringing in your ears and it isn't anything more. And that's where asking questions like, is this something that I should look at? You can ask that question, see how it feels. But it could be dangerous or just very inconvenient to try to assign and find out what everything means to you, because not all the meaning and everything is for you. It's where we have a lot of people. So I just thought it's a relevant thing to throw into that as well. Yeah. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, per Freud. Or is that Carl Jung?
How much can you enjoy life if you start questioning every little thing?
Right.
Yeah. And see, and maybe yours, if it's in one ear or the other and not all the time, maybe that is little downloads and communication versus all the time. So for like me, it'll fade in the background. I can hear around it. It can become problematic, like I said, depending on who's talking and how loud they're speaking. But generally, I think for most people, it's a spiritual work. If it's out of the blue, you don't have constant, and it just kind of picks up all of a sudden. It's kind of like that. This happens more for me, ignoring the ringing. Like you're kind of working and there are people talking, but all of a sudden, like a part of the conversation gets louder, like their voices, but you just kind of pick up on it and you're like, I needed to know that for some reason. So maybe that's kind of for you with the ring, is like pay attention, or here's an idea comes in that way.
And map it, because I have certain tones. Like I have one tone, I call it the need to know channel. And it's kind of like the emergency. Like if there's something imminent that I need to have a hand in or something, I'll get a very specific tone and I know to tune in and see what's up. And every time, it doesn't happen very often, but every time that I have done that, it has been something imminent that I had I did like a one Long Island medium something one time where it's like I tuned in. It's like this message that must happen within the next 5 minutes for somebody's healing, and I did it, and it worked out. But I was head tripping about doing it, But but the point is, map. If you are getting tones, like this tone is this tone is that, you can kind of start just like a dream journal. Like different symbolism might be repeating for you, and it's all mapping your body and your being and how you are receiving the universe, and then you can expand on that if you start seeing patterns and things of that nature.
I need a sign of your sign, though, right?
Sign your sign.
I'm like, it would be great if you could just like hang dry erase boards everywhere you go, and just the message appears on the wall. Like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Ooh, like Ghostwriter. I love that show way back. I wonder if it's still around.
I mean, I may have done a little bit of that myself too in the teenage years, just compounded the problem with the same band, when they were still good. Um, I didn't go to a lot of concerts because there's too many people there. Ew. Ew. Don't go to those very much. And I'm like, how big is the venue? How spaced out is it? How close are they standing to me?
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably compounded the problems. That's why I'm like, nah, this is actual like tinnitus, not, you know, Spirit can text me, right? That would be great. Like I'll put Spirit in my phone. That's okay.
Mhm.
Hasn't happened. Um, let's see. Did we miss anybody? Um, and it's funny because even in those books, they talk about resonance and even like the infinite possibility of different realities going on at the same time and how we brush
Mhm.
against
Oh,
them.
I'm all over that. I believe that.
So if you really want to flex some thinking muscles and
Mhm.
start kind of rethinking a lot of stuff, those books can help you do that.
Yeah. Well, just ask the question as you go through it. How does this knowledge, how can I apply it for my own reality to show up in a greater way that I would prefer? Because otherwise it's just knowledge, and unapplied knowledge is just trivia.
Is it possible that there are a few fifth level healers out there, and how would we know or find out about them?
Based on the tradition, one would think not, because once the fifth level, it can pass from person to person with just a touch of the hand. So when the fifth level does occur, it's going to spread. And that's why the Caro, though initially they thought, based on the prophecy, that like Christ was God, or like the fifth level healer and everything. Like in the Bible, it even said that even in his own town, he couldn't do those things, and the fifth level healer could do everything every single time with just a touch, without a prayer, without an intention. And so he was probably intermittently fifth, but when the fifth level actually shows, it will be, if I have it and I go to Melissa and I touch her, she has it, she touches the next person, it would literally spread like wildfire on the planet. And I think did it actually say? I'm thinking about the there's a prophecy at the Quarteriti festival that there would be like the next Inca. That would be the glowing one. I guess that's sixth level, isn't it? Sixth level is
I
glowing.
Yeah.
Six
Um,
levels glowing. So like there is a prophecy of even having, maybe we'll jump right to the sixth level, because the Quarteriti festival is supposed to be the prophecy. I know Zane will watch on a replay. He can make a comment if he needs to correct this, but I believe that there'll be like 7 couples. One couple will be from the north, and one of those couples will glow, and that's going to be like the next Inca or ruler. But they're glowing. That would be like sixth level, right? Or not? It's glowing all the time that everyone can see. I'm correcting myself now. You can have people who glow, an Inca will glow, but
mhm.
sixth level is someone that everybody can perceive the glow regardless. So like even someone who is a complete non-believer, they would be able to see the glow. And I think that would be the difference between like a fifth level glow and a sixth level glow. Sorry, I had to talk out loud to get there.
Well, so fifth level performs miracles. Six levels are able to glow. Um, you know, sixth level is becoming the light and glowing. Um, so in some notes, like depending on the year, like Christ was level 6 in one year, level 7 in another year. Um, hello, everybody coming in.
And level 5 in another year.
Yeah.
But
So
what's really important is, who is Christ to you? Like that would be the thing, and how you're
so
using that person.
well, you know, and it's funny because around the time of Christ doing all of those healings, he was not the only miraculous healer. There were others,
Right.
and I was trying to Google and find those names. And it's just kind of like almost like Jesus managed to go viral somehow over the others, but he was not the only miraculous healer at that time. Um, so there were multiple at that point. And then just kind of thinking of how like humanity kind of goes in these loops, that like all of a sudden we went from having miraculous here to humanity got dumb again, right? And we're back on the upswing of like bringing everybody more back, a bigger group, you know, higher, and we're going to get to a point and we may kind of circle down, but it's that whole like bringing up enough people, getting everybody kind of like, here's where we're at, now let's go help other people. um and let's meet back again and discuss and have better plans and techniques for the next gathering. Um, but like right now, I can't think if there's anybody out there doing miraculous healing.
No. And the definition of fifth level, though, would be the infallible healer every time, never failing, with nothing but a touch. There would be no prayer, no healing actually done. It would just be done.
Yeah. And I can't think of anybody right now that's. There was that one healer, and I don't know if we want to say the name. I've forgotten his name, but like there was jewelry bits and everything that was
John of God, I think. Is it John of God?
Go.
Or were you trying not to say the name and I just said it?
Well,
anyway?
I don't want to get sued, Hank.
Well, this is allegedly, yeah.
But, so many people were praising him, but I remember like feeling some of these bits and I'm like, there's nothing here, and I'm like, I don't feel anything. Hey, Supernatural and MC Master, like everybody coming in, we'll give some shout outs out. And even then, I think at one point there were documentaries like proving some of these big healers that, others were traveling to South America for, or traveling, across oceans and sandboxes to go visit these people. And they weren't really performing anything. It was a lot of sleight of hand, trick of the mind, and in a way were they healing some by kind of putting them in a state of allowing the healing to happen? Sure. But some of these, surgeries and this and that, like that was just the whole like having that little packet in the hand, pretending to cut, squeeze that packet, now there's blood coming out. I really don't think we have anybody in this time actually performing the miraculous healing.
And that's what, like, in one of the videos Zane had for the online apprenticeship, he talks about the people that are third level, intermittently in fourth or fourth. We're creating, once there's enough of that, it's kind of creating a womb, an energetic womb of where the fifth level can emerge. So it's like, it's really like live your best life and do the best you can to be a service to yourself and to others, if that's what's like for you. And it's like that through that and helping to walk each other home. No human left behind, right? Like we're creating the womb and the trampoline where we can spring into that next level. And I'm really curious if it I think the fifth level can happen anywhere at any time. It doesn't have to be Quarteriti, but I'm thinking of the glowing one.
Well, and I do believe in the tradition, there are not quite, and this is where I'm like, oh, I need to reread that, and you might know better, Hank, where there's multiple higher healers from all over the world coming together to start that raising process, which is
that's
why
the Quarteriti festival. There's the prophecy that eventually the Quarteriti festival, it happens on the winter solstice. It's like the return of the sun, and the prophecy says that at one point, the big procession that happens, there will be 7 couples that join the procession, one couple being from the north. So there's 7 Yanantan pairs. And interesting, there's 7 levels. I wonder if that's a coincidence, right? And of those 7 pairs, one will glow. And that is supposed to be like the ushering in of the next, like, I hate to say the word, but next Inka or the next ruler, the next overseer, the next inspirer of like how humanity is going to evolve type of thing. But that's what you're thinking of, those 7 coming together, I think. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. And that helps bring on like that creating that womb for this to happen. If there really was, would they actually let the world know? I don't know if they themselves would be like, haha, I am it, right? Because that ego would be gone.
No, they said that it could even be instant. The procession could be there, and somebody who has had no training, no initiations, doesn't believe anything about God or source or anything, all of a sudden in that moment has a shift and becomes one of the 7 couples. And so it's not necessarily someone that's doing lifelong work. Like the people of us doing this conscious work, we're creating the womb for maybe like the random mechanic down the street that is also going to have this awakening. Like, I got to get to Quarteriti. I don't even know what that is, but I got to go. Like it's creating the womb of inspiration for the unconscious to become conscious. And I have seen people in my own life that didn't practice any of this, that just get a spark of it and are doing things so rapidly, just amazing work in a very short period of time. And I think as we come closer to that birthing moment, there's just going to be more and more of that, where somebody who is not anything woo-woo today, all of a sudden is major woo-woo tomorrow and can do amazing things. And we're just all snowball affecting at this point, I feel.
Yeah. And that's kind of part of like letting go of the ego, right? Like
Yeah.
I
Edging
don't,
God out.
yeah, I'm not, I don't care if it's not me that becomes, I'm just doing my thing and helping create that. And, every person, I come in contact with, Hank is the same, and all of the other students, like the more that we are doing our work, like the more likelihood it is for that other person to just brush up and get a even unconscious, subconscious feeling of that and have that awakening. I'm okay. I don't need to be that one.
No,
Like
it sounds like that's
at
a
it.
lot of work anyway. I'm busy
Yeah,
enough.
right. I don't. I might have time on a Monday from 2 to 3:30.
Right.
Um, and ultimately I think what would happen, it wouldn't be the healer themselves, right? It would be everybody that
Mhm.
they've helped or healed that would be like, oh my God, so and so was able
Yeah.
to do that. And then that word spreads without the healer
Right.
even asking, like, could you put the word out? It's just it just becomes
Yeah.
like drinking a cup of, like, that's what I did, and like move on.
Yeah, it was like Christ, he never claimed to be. It was like when someone asked, "Are you the Son of God?" He's like, "You have called me so." Like he never said. Well, I don't know. I don't know the Bible well enough to say that he never claimed it, but it was my impression that it was just word of mouth, and it's kind of like in some shamanic traditions, mainly the Tungus tribe, I believe. Like a shaman would never call themselves a shaman. The
Mhm.
villagers would. It would be like that's how you're acknowledged, but you would never call that yourself that. Other traditions are different. And that's why there's a lot of polarization in the shamanic community because there was cultural appropriation over the word shaman. There was one tribe, and then every native tradition, because of anthropology, gets lumped up underneath shamanism, and then they fight about who's right, who's wrong. You can't do this, you can't do that. We're all nature mystics. That's the umbrella, really. And if we can remember that, yeah, even Christ told his apostles not to tell people about him until he was gone. So there's a humility in that. I feel that
Mhm.
is part of it.
Right. Um, so maybe that's why it's so hard to think of somebody doing it. But I would like to think,
Yeah,
like, if there was, like, there'd be whispers, right?
yeah. But
Because
when we hear those whispers, I don't know.
yeah. Um, so I don't know. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, if it were me, the first places I'd be going are like children's hospitals, cancer wards, things like that. Like, haha, we no longer have this. Um,
Hmm.
but let's see. No, I think we're good on all the questions. I was wondering if we missed anybody because it is after 11 now.
Yeah. Well, we did start a few minutes late, but a final call
Yeah.
for questions, and we do this every Thursday. If you have questions on the replay, message me or Melissa, or post them in the comments, and let us know. We don't have our topic for next week picked out, but we'll figure it out
Yeah.
when we
And
after we're done.
we the store does a Friday discussion as at well around 1 o'clock on different other type of woo-woo stuff. So keep an eye for that. I was texting Emily and I'm like, hey, what's our topic for tomorrow? She hasn't answered, but I know like
Okay.
last week we did like tools and techniques for psychic work and mediumship work. Um, hello again. Um, so if you like these type of discussions, there'll be one tomorrow at 1. I know a lot of people at work, but feel free to lurk or watch it after. Um, but yeah, the shaman talk every Thursday at 11
Yeah.
ish. And I say ish because we were like, what, 11:07 today?
Yeah, we were a little later. I was running a little late.
Shaman time. We were on
Yeah,
shaman time.
but I wasn't as late as I thought it would be, so that's all good.
That is a joke that Zane was kind of late quite often,
He
wasn't he?
was. Well, part of that is he would drive back to Athens every night. Yeah, Zane, I know you're gonna watch this. You love driving. I don't get it, but he would come in Friday for like 3 hours and like drive back to Athens, and it's like a 3.5 hour drive, and then he would drive in on Saturday, and then he would drive back, and he would drive back in on Sunday, and he was late a lot.
Yeah. So everything happened at time.
Yeah,
Because of
and if he wasn't late, then the student was late. So always somebody was late, but it was always perfectly timed. So it
yeah.
was really helped me get over because I was one who, if I'm not 15 minutes early, I I'm late if I'm not 15 minutes early. And then during the program, I went through this phase where I could not be on time for anything to save my life. I even was late picking up my own kids from like the daycare and was getting charged like an insane $20 per 10 minutes of being late or something stupid. And then I balanced out. Now I'm okay if I'm late. It's okay if I'm early, and I'm way more laid back. So the program did a lot for me in terms of my time allowance.
Nope, I'm still on time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Well, I was the one playing around with time bending, and there was one time after playing around with time bending, I left my house and was driving to the store to do readings one day, and it took me 45 minutes to get there, and it's only 20 minutes away. And I couldn't figure it out. And then I realized like I had somehow done this weird things with time, and it took me 45 minutes to drive to Goddess Elite from Westlake to North Homestead. And I have no explanation other than like time bending is a thing. And
Did he teach that in the last?
he never intentionally taught it. He told a story about somebody doing it, and then I just started playing around with it, and I started causing some trouble for myself. But I got it. I think I got it mastered that now.
I remember a how to, because I'm like, yes, I have played with that.
Yeah.
And that is something that you don't do willy nilly.
Oh, I play with it all the time.
There's always kind of like a snapback effect.
It doesn't have. I think I figured out a way around the snapback for myself, so I play with it more often. It could have been aliens. It could have been. I could have been. I was abducted, man. I didn't put it together till just now. That totally could have been it. I'm not denying that could have been it. But yeah. But now I have an explanation for being late in the future. It was aliens, Melissa.
Oh, great. Thanks, Brock.
That's why I'm late.
Thanks.
I have a whole new out now.
On Thursdays. That's all I'm going to hear. It was aliens.
Yeah, it was aliens. I was trying to convince them to take you back, Melissa, but they said no.
Yeah, come get me off this planet. I'm done. I'm not impressed. -5 stars. Come get me. Well, thanks for joining everybody. Like we said, every Thursday at 11-ish, shaman talk for about an hour or so. We also have our Woo Woo Wednesday evenings, readings talk, not necessarily based in shaman, like anything under that metaphysical umbrella. And we do pre-readings and just general shenanigans. Friday afternoons at 1, other tips, trades, using different things in the store, like how to use things. So feel free if you're like, hey, I've always wondered how to use this or what the hell do I do with this thing? We'll go over those. My reason's done.
She wishes it was done, but I don't think it's done.
Did open the can of aliens. Thanks. Right. What were your late schoolwork excuses, Hank?
Oh, I just didn't do homework. I did. I mean, I used to, and then there was one time. This is probably the best one, but it wasn't an excuse. It was totally true. I had my just a pile of papers in the back of my Malibu at the time, and my friend, my Dan, and I were welding the fender wells back together, and literally the backseat caught fire, and my homework caught fire. But my teacher did not believe me. But it was true. My homework literally caught on fire, and I didn't get credit. And I think that might have been when I stopped doing homework after that. But I passed the test, so like a balance out usually to a D.
I mean, there is that. I didn't wish to reincarnate on this planet either.
Yeah. Another reason I had the nickname of Sparky at that point, because there was a lot of fire instances around me, including 2 cars getting caught on fire. That was one of the 2. We were welding the fender wells, and there was like a hole from the fender wells. So the question was, how did it catch on fire? The Malibu, where we were welding the fender wells, the fire, the welding, like there was a hole all the way through to the interior, and the upholstery of the seat caught on fire, and then my papers caught on fire, and then we put the fire out with a hose, but it was too late. Too late. We should have had the hose ready. We didn't. We had to go running, put it on, turn it on, and by that point, it had been going pretty good.
Very flammable back in the 80s, early 90s.
It was a 75 Chevelle. Yeah.
Chemicals being used.
That car was amazing, though. I love that car. It was so much fun.
I'm always late. My dad said I would be late for my own funeral, right? Okay, cool. Sandy's done with this planet. Yep. It's my final world tour. I like it. I think Aerosmith is like on their farewell tour right now too.
Don't they always call it the farewell tour so it sells better?
I think they mean it this time. They're getting up there.
Like, one more time until the next one more time.
So speaking of final goodbyes for today, because
bye-bye.
Hank, you have readings. You're available in person at the store today, or if you would like healing with Hank and you're not local, he can do this with Zoom. So you can always book with Hank via Zoom.
Yep, through the store, I'm only here till 5:30 today because I have to go set up for an event at 7, but I will be here in person or virtually.
Yep. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. We'll hopefully see everybody next Thursday for more shaman talk.
Sounds good.